So that's why they've sent me, to put a stop to that. Anybody ever heard of pixies?
Yes. Oh yes.
What do you think of when you think of a pixie?
They're nice
Gnomes.
Some people think of pixies as lovely little fairy creatures that do good and all this. Not in Devon.
It's me.
In Devon, they're mischievous little horrors.
Oh, I'm not.
And it's said that you can be pixie-led. Perfect night for it, however the mist lifted a little bit now. When you get lost on the moor in a mist, it's said that the pixies have led you there and got you lost for mischief. This all came about way back in the 1500s. Where there was a man called John Fitz, and him and his wife used to live up near Oakhampton, top of the moor. And they used to like walking on the moor. And one day they were walking on the moor and a mist came down and they got lost, couldn't find their way back to home. And John Fitz said, "It's the pixies. We're being pixie-led." And he was walking along the stream and he found a little fountain coming into the stream. He took a drink out of the fountain and the mist lifted and he found his way home. So he said that that fountain was enchanted and it was a cure for being pixie-led. Now if you go just down the back of the school here, there's a little brook called the Blacker Brook. And along that Blacker Brook there's a little fountain coming into it. And over the top of this fountain is now a cover, a granite cover. And engraved on it is JF, John Fitz, 1538. So if you ever get lost, when you go outside here, just pop down to the Blacker Brook and take a drink, you'll be okay. Now of course, as anybody knows, who knows anything about pixies knows, the other way to stop being pixie-led is to turn your pockets inside out. That stops everything. Now I've got to tell you, you ladies here, I've got a wonderful wife. She's gorgeous and she's away trying to win me some money at bingo at the moment. But, she's going through that period of life that we call the change. You know what I mean? Boy, is she pixie-led. She goes upstairs to the toilet and forgets what she's gone for. She does everything wrong. Only at certain times, when this pixie's around. I've told her if I ever find this pixie, I'm going to kill it. It's still chasing her around now. There's lots of stories about pixies on the moor, but they're all old folklore stories, like the lady who had tulips in her garden. She had a beautiful garden, and at the bottom of the garden she had lots of tulips. And in the morning when she got up, she could hear singing, and the tulips were swaying. And one morning she got up early, before the singing started, and she went into her garden, crept into her garden, and sat down to wait. And along came some little pixies, and put their babies in the tulips, started singing to them and swaying the tulips, to send them to sleep. However, the old lady died, and a new man took the place, an old grumpy man. And he didn't like flowers, he wanted vegetables, so he dug all the tulips up, and the pixies never came again, and nothing ever grew in his garden, because of the pixies. There's some ghost stories on the moor as well. We're in the Prince of Wales Inn. This was built in 1854 as a hotel. It was then the Prince of Wales Hotel. And upstairs were 12 bedrooms. We've got a ghost upstairs, and it's a wench, a chambermaid, a young girl, supposedly very good looking. And she wanders about upstairs. And it's said that the reason for this is that she was killed by a resident here when she was working. He got hung for murder, but she was killed and she haunts the place now. Now, I've stayed here a couple of times. Once last year, I stayed here because the landlord was going away and I used to be in the pub trade, I used to have a pub, so he asked me to look after the place. So one night, I'd heard the story of the wench upstairs. One night, after we'd finished down here, closed the bar and everything, and I assure you I hadn't had too much to drink, went up to bed. And I was laid in bed reading a book and I heard bump, bump, bump. What it was, on the landing upstairs, there's 2 steps going down like that and 2 like that, and it goes across the landing. And it's said that the wench walks across these. And my bedroom was right by these stairs. And I heard bump, 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 bump. So me being me, got up to investigate. Nothing there. So I went back, read the book again. Bump, 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 bump. So, like every good Englishman who's slightly perturbed, or should I say terrified, I went and made a cup of tea. So I'm in the kitchen making a cup of tea, and I heard bum bum bum, bum bum bum. And it was coming from the window at the end of the kitchen, which was an old wooden sash window, and the wind was blowing outside and the window was going bum 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 bum. So I've still never seen the wench upstairs. It is said that we have one in the bar. When you go out, have a look for him. He's a monk. Now why he's a monk I don't know. The nearest monastery is Tavistock, which is about 8 miles down the road. But he's a monk and he wears a cowl, a brown cowl. Everybody know what I mean by a cowl? Hooded cape. And it said he floats around the bar. So if you bump into anybody when you go out and you can't quite make out who it is, you'll know who it is, it's our monk. However, the reason he floats around the bar is, again, the Princetown weather. It comes in through the keyholes, through the windows, he can't do anything else but float. So check him out. But there is a book about Dartmoor, about all the pubs of Dartmoor, and I think there's only 2 or 3 that haven't got ghosts. Now, I used to do these talks to other people at another pub, the Railway Inn up the top of the road there. And I started doing it because I'd looked into the history of the place and everybody was doing that, so I went into the folklore. And one day we got a phone call saying, could I entertain some people from the north of England who were coming down from Derbyshire and Nottinghamshire and North Yorkshire. And they were coming down to Torquay to a hotel for a specific ghosts and ghouls weekend. That's all they wanted to know about. And some of them professed to be mediums, could contact the dead. Anyway, they came up to the pub and I got them in the back room. There's 65 of them and I stood talking like I'm talking to you now, telling them the stories, mainly ghost stories to these people. And at the end of it, well, got a good round of applause and a lady walked up to me. She'd been sat in the far corner of the room. She walked over to me, big lady, jet black hair, very gypsy looking lady. And she professed to be a medium. And she said, Kev, that was wonderful, I thoroughly enjoyed it. She said, however, you did leave something out. I said, what's that? She said, the Frenchman sat in the corner over there. I said, oh yeah, humouring her. She said, yes, Frenchman sat in the corner. She said, while you've been talking to us, I've been talking to this Frenchman. I said, oh, what's he like, this Frenchman then? She said, well, he's all dressed in rags. She said, and all he wants to do is get home. He wants to be in a little piece of home. He wants to get home to his wife and kids. She says, oh, and by the way, he's got a ball and chain on his ankle. Well, at that point, the hackles on the back of my neck just went whoosh, because what I knew is that she didn't know about the prison. She didn't even know there was a prison here, let alone that it was a prisoner of war camp for French. And yet she'd been sat in the corner talking to a French prisoner of war. So if you ever get back here and you go in the railway now, go into the stable bar and you'll see a little French flag in the corner. Because what this lady said to the landlord was, all Pierre wants is a bit of his homeland to be in. So that corner of the railway bar is now French. However, the landlord